What in the world is going on? Oh, no. This whole pink-blue thing, it's just traditional. I mean, we're so much smarter now. The world has gone crazy. Hello and welcome to...
The Pagans are acting like pagans again.
This is Wretched Radio. No doubt you've asked the question, what in the world is going on? At least once, if not 1,000 times, because every single day we are bombarded by news stories that indicate Romans 1 is alive and well, and so is Acts chapter 19. Romans 1 talking about the descent into sin, that minds become darkened and they start to behave in unnatural ways. They start to think, well, really foolishly. Furthermore, Acts 19, I think, helps us to understand what in the world is going on as we continue to see more and more what can only be described as truly crazy behavior and decisions. Last night, sitting out on the back deck. Why? Well, we're done with pollen season here in Atlanta, Georgia. Wasn't a bad year. The weather, for some reason, it was not nearly as... You're looking at me like I've got 3 heads.
Well,
the pollen was better this year than it has been in the past.
Well, it's still worse than I've ever seen it.
Well, welcome to Atlanta. I have looked because, well, I've got free time. How many Atlanta brochures? You know, you go to the city center, the travel office, Chamber of Commerce, and you look at their brochures. I've looked through each and every one of them in every county in Atlanta, and none of them include, wow, we have more pollen than anybody. They kind of keep that a hidden secret in the South because, well, a lot of people wouldn't come if they knew that your car gets covered in green schmutz on a daily basis for about 2 months. Well, we finally got to the end of it, which means it's time to clean whatever outdoor patio furniture you might have on my hands and knees, scrubbing the deck, trying to get the pollen off. Thought I was doing a good job and knew I had to because Mrs. Friel insists on it. Then I take the hose and I hose everything off. All the suds are gone, and I'm thinking to myself, I hit every square inch the pollen is gone. Well, the sun dried the water, and we still have a green deck. So now we're back in our patio sitting in green pollen, even though we shouldn't be. When my phone rings and I receive a phone call from a guy who makes me sweat. Why? Well, he happens to be on our board, and he's the financial guru guy, the accounting type, which means when he calls, I just get anxious because I always want to make sure that we are stewarding gifts really well here, and it terrifies me when he calls because, what if I did something wrong? And we were chatting about what is happening in the world. And for some reason, he said something to me that perhaps you've uttered, but it stuck for some reason. We were chatting about this and that and the different stories. And he said, the world has just gone crazy. And for some reason, a light bulb went off that said, that's exactly it. The world has gone crazy. Here are a couple of demonstrations that the world has gone crazy. Then we'll scoot to Acts 19 to reveal why this is happening. In Oregon, maybe enough said, because that seems to be a region of the country that is truly going off the rails of logic and common sense. I'm sorry for this. I'm just reading them. Oregon just passed a new law, and the governor signed it. It's the Menstrual Dignity Act. Now, not minstrel, like, somebody playing on some little stringed instrument with curled up shoes. I'm not talking about a traveling minstrel in the Middle Ages or at a Renaissance festival near you. Menstrual Dignity Act requires schools to place feminine products in boys' bathrooms. Now, Where else do you go but darkened mind? Where else do you go but detached from reality? By the way, the people who pass this legislation, I'm pretty certain that all of them have a license to drive a very heavy vehicle. They maybe even own homes and carry firearms, even though they tell you not to. These are people who are walking the streets, making decisions like this. It's so filled with cuckoo. You got to figure out what's going on here. With instructions on how to use those products in all K through 12 bathrooms, regardless of gender, Portland schools are implementing Menstrual Dignity Act. How twisted is this? The statement stressed the need for students to, this is just so contorted. The statement stressed the need for students to learn about growth and development. Noted that some physical education courses are implementing lessons on the 4 pillars of menstrual dignity. Menstruation is a bodily function. We wouldn't do this with other functions, would we? Only in a Romans 1 world. The 4 pillars of menstrual dignity encourage parents to have similar discussions with their children to help reduce the shame and stigma surrounding menstruation. I didn't know there was any. Do we have that stigma around coughing? Expectorating? Do we need legislation to remove the shame from using a restroom? The toolkit emphasized the need for menstrual products in all bathrooms. Here it comes, because lack of access disproportionately impacts students of color, students experiencing disability and poverty. What is color has got to be roped into everything these days. The Menstrual Dignity Act affirms the right to menstrual dignity for transgender, there it is, intersex, non-binary, and two-spirit students by addressing the challenges that some students have managing menstruation while minimizing negative attention that could put them at risk of harm and navigating experiences of gender dysphoria during menstruation. Absolutely crazy. Research connects gender-affirming bathroom access to supporting student safety. Ah, yes. Everything is about safety these days, isn't it? Isn't that what a lot of legislation and mandates have been about? You got to be safe. Are you safe? We got to keep people safe. Are you safe? Oregon students ranked 46th in the nation in reading and math. But they're aware about Menstrual Dignity Day in Oregon. Acts chapter 19. Paul is in Ephesus. Things are actually going quite well. Verse 21, it's the preamble to a riot that broke out. It appears that people were concerned that their commerce of false idols was being jeopardized. You get to verse 28. Now, when they heard this, they were full of wrath and cried out, "Great is Diana of the Ephesians!" So the whole city was filled with confusion and rushed into the theater with one accord, having seized Gaius, Supreme Court justices, Macedonians, and Aristarchus, Paul's travel companions. And when Paul wanted to go into the people, the disciples would not allow him. What did they chant? Something mindless. Great is Diana of the Ephesians. For 2 hours, the pagans are acting like pagans again.
The pagans are acting like pagans again.
He has a better voice than I do. That is what we're seeing in the world. We're seeing Romans 1. We're seeing Acts 19 as the world continues to reveal its confusion because it is detached from the truth of God. We have some options. We can get really agitated. Oh, I've checked that box already. Or we can realize the solution to the insanity is the preaching of the gospel. Now is the time for us to be evangelizing and proclaiming. Don't know if I mentioned, we recently did a Breaking Bread. We're going to be releasing it, I don't know when, I think some year. had a dinner conversation with Daryl Harrison. And Daryl has studied the issue of CRT. And I asked him, how do we talk to people about CRT? And his answer was, you don't. Because you're not going to persuade somebody. Because all of the terms are up for grabs. There is an agenda that is so driven by unbiblical ideologies that you're not going to win. So elevate the conversation out of the realm of CRT into the realm of the Bible. And I think that's what we need to do with the pagans that we're meeting on a daily basis who do things that just make springs pop out of your head. They don't need clever. They don't need political. They don't need socioeconomic lectures. They need biblical truth. They need the Spirit of God to regenerate them, which forces me to experience another synapse, which is when we got home from California last week. Jimmy, did I mention we were in California last week?
I think so.
Okay. Got back and we empty out the mailbox. It's filled with bills and junk and, the stuff that people send out. And these days, political postcards. This is a big one. And it was some guy. He's apparently a conservative fellow, and I have no qualms or issues with his platform. He was saying, I'm an advocate for the men and women in blue. We should not defund the police. Yes, keep training people, but don't forget, American policemen and women are the best trained police force in the world. Keep doing that, but we're not going to defund them. We're going to encourage them. And we're going to make sure that they too receive equal justice. And he went on to list a bunch of other things. And I thought, oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that. And I'm grateful for it. Please don't hear that I'm not grateful for people who stake those positions and try to implement them. I'm very grateful for that. But it struck me. This would be like pulling weeds from a garden when the house is on fire. This would be like changing your windshield wiper when your transmission just fell out of your car. This would be like, Friel, stop with the illustration. This would be like pulling a flea off of your pet when they've got a big cancerous tumor. Okay, I think I'm done with the illustrations. These things they are not of no value. They are important, and I get it. And I'm encouraged by those people who are trying to achieve more biblical ideals in politics. But it's not going to fix the crazy. It's not going to fix the institutions, business, education, government. It's not going to. Let's just say that there's more conservatives in. Do you think Chuck Schumer is going to suddenly start talking sensibly? And Nancy Pelosi is going to go, boing, what have I been thinking? I'm pro-life now. Not going to happen. They and the people who follow them and the people who vote for them, they need the gospel. And that is what we need to be proclaiming to people. So you meet somebody and they, for instance, maybe think this story is a great idea. This was sent in. Just if you're watching on video, it's actually a newspaper article. I don't have the source of it, but this was sent in by Michelle. In the news section of a newspaper, that's what this looks like, an actual newspaper. You can Google it if you're under the age of 40. Midwives taught how to help men give birth. Okay. Well, I just looked over to see Jimmy banging his head on his microphone. You know what? Why don't you keep it on and just and let everybody hear what you just did?
This makes no sense at all.
Well, it does to them. Now, it's not sensical, but it works out in their world. Their framework is so radically different that this seems to make sense to them. Just like putting female products into the boys' bathroom from K to 12. Oh, man, Scylla. It doesn't make any sense to you because it's illogical. And that's the point. People need to have their brains fixed. But the only way it happens is through regeneration. And if we aren't preaching the gospel, they're not going to get regenerated. So this story goes on to say midwifery students are being taught how to help men give birth in a textbook that experts say is rife with anatomical fiction. Okay, here's what's fiction. I believe I'm the Hindenburg blimp. That's fiction right there. And you can replace the Hindenburg with pretty much any noun you want to, and I ain't it. I is what I is. My grammar ain't good, but I is what I is. They say, oh, no, this whole pink-blue thing, it's just traditional. I mean, we're so much smarter now. Do you remember, I think it was, well, there was someday, was talking about some guy who's a very popular sports broadcaster. I don't even remember his name. But he was belly aching about what the Supreme Court, well, not what the Supreme Court leaked, but what probably some liberal clerk leaked, was belly aching about it, saying, well, I'm going to have to vote Democrat. You already do, but that's not the point. What do we, man, like in the 1920s? What's wrong with the 1920s? Were all of those people morons? Is everything yesterday bad, dumb? Without any merit? That's the mindset of the world. They see, oh, well, we used to think that XX and XY meant there were two genders, but now we know there are 72. Edinburgh Napier University told students they may be caring for a birthing person. It's not a pregnant woman anymore. It's not a mommy in labor. It's a birthing person. I wonder if they actually use that. Somebody... So you're now at a hospital, you've got to be a nurse, and they're implementing the kooky language, and so a couple walks in, one of them has a big baby bump. So which one of you is the birthing person? Because I don't want to offend your gender, or you if you're actually not birthing. So who's the birthing person who has, I'll just leave it at this. You may be caring for a birthing person who has male body parts and a prostate gland in an effort to support transgender people. A module told students you may be caring for a pregnant or birthing person who is transitioning from male to female and may still have external male body parts. Want to go bonkers? Keep reading. Keep searching.
So
keep watching. What?
I'm just wondering if somebody is transitioning from male to female, they still can't get pregnant. So,
I know, and that's exactly it. And we've got to come up with a solution so that we don't lose our minds like the world has. See them as lost. See them as in need of something transcendent and true, the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is Wretched Radio. All right, gentlemen, second half. Here's the strategy. Psalms. Imprecatory psalms. Now take a knee. Let